Okay, so hi everyone, this is Manish Agrawal here. Uh, I'm one of the co-founders of Axelta Systems. So welcome to the webinar on opportunities for startup in an IoT space. So before we start, a couple of logistic related items. So number one is that there is a section called questions when you log in into GoToWebinar. So I would request all of you to keep on typing in questions. I've also been joined with by Piyush. He'll be trying to answer those questions by typing in the answers there. And at the end of it, of the session, we've also planned for about 10 to 15 minutes, wherein we'll try and answer further questions. So this is what we have on the cards today. I'll be talking about Exelta, some of our experiences along the way. We'll try and spend some time about understanding what IoT is and then various business opportunities within IoT, the different channels or segments, if we call it. We'll be sharing also about how our journey has been, both in terms of those factors which helped us succeed, as well as the learnings that we had along the way. Some insights on what we did for our financing and then where all the opportunities lies in terms of getting the required funds to start up. Typically, it is seen that hardware is a tough challenge to deal with. So, what our experience has have been in terms of getting the hardware in place, and of course, at the end of it, we'll be having a session of question and answers. So please keep typing in your queries as you encounter them. So as far as we are concerned, we started in October 2013, and it was started by both me and Piyush. We've passed out from IIT Roorkee and had spent almost like 20 odd years each in various technology domains, both in terms of product development and services. A few key things I think which went our ways is that we were revenue neutral within 6 months of starting up. So we were bootstrapping, didn't raise money up front, and we were able to get to a revenue neutral stage in a pretty short time. We've raised almost like 350K in a couple of rounds of angel funding that we've taken. Roughly, our valuation is about a couple of $1 million. We've actually deployed IoT solutions already with a few Fortune 500 companies, one of them being Coca-Cola India. Uh, One key aspect has been that we are now world's largest in terms of IoT training. We are official training partners for a number of Fortune 500 companies, a number of consulting firms, and till now trained 1,000 plus people. In fact, recently we also launched uh, an expert program wherein we're hiring people in the US, training them to be full stack IoT experts, and they'll be working in different exciting projects in the US itself. We're based out of Hyderabad, India, and then right now our strength is 15 of us, including me and Piyush. In terms of the solutions that we've been working on, we've converged on remote asset management as our focus area. Within that space, we are essentially dealing with security. So there's a B2C product that right now is in beta phase, which tackles a specific use case related to physical security of high net worth individuals. Also, we've done a solution, like I said, for Coca-Cola, wherein it's about sales tracking as well as managing the real-time sales information. Parallelly, we've also invested in building our own ecosystem on IoT. So there's an IoT platform that we've created, codenamed as Osmosis, which can potentially capture data from multiple types of devices. You can configure various rules and notifications. So essentially, it acts as a cloud-based system for enabling your IoT solution. And then, of course, it's big data enabled, wherein we've brought in multiple big data and analytics technologies to help process the information and generate intelligence which can be used for taking business decisions. So I had actually mentioned about our train to deploy model that we've recently launched. It's about building full stack IoT experts. It's a 6-week program, and our first batch has recently concluded. And those people who we've hired, they are right now being placed in different companies. So it's in fact one of the first programs of this type in this technology area, and we're pretty excited about it. In fact, we plan to launch a similar program in India as well. A quick look at our profile. I'll not go into too much details uh, our profile, but we from IIT Roorkee spent a lot of years in the software side of things, and hardware is something which we've uh, learned along the way as we've built solutions for different customers. Now let's try and spend some time understanding about IoT business. Okay, so as you see, there is a line here. There is something which we would call as an infrastructure or an ecosystem, and then there are domain-specific implementations for a particular requirement. So considering, let's say, a connected car or a smart home scenario, what you would have is you'll try and give it an identity so that it can be recognized uh, across potentially across the world. You would try and attach some sensors to it so that you can actually capture some information about how they are performing, what are the various parameters of their performance, also maybe actuate something so as to remotely control those devices or appliances. You would have some kind of a communication mechanism in order to be able to take that information, aggregate it at a certain point. The communication mechanism could be various short range wireless protocols like Bluetooth, Bluetooth Low Energy, Zigbee, and all. And then you would have some kind of a gateway. Typically, it would not be possible to try and put a gateway across each of these appliances because it's going to push up the cost as well as power consumption in your devices. So typically what you'll try and do is try and put together a node which is a constrained device to which the sensors are connected, and all the information from various different appliances or nodes would then get aggregated into a gateway, which could be a fixed gateway, or like in the case of wearable devices, it could be a smartphone wherein your device gets tethered to in order to be able to communicate with the internet. Then all that information that gets aggregated gets pre-processed in the gateway and sent across to a cloud-based system. And this is what I was mentioning is this the Osmosis platform. There are multiple such platforms that exist right now in this space, but we built our own platform called Osmosis. You can also call it as ERP of things. Like for example, for our human processes, we had the MRPs and enterprise resource planning systems to manage our data as well as our workflow. For devices, a new breed of systems are coming in, which are helping you collate the information from multiple of these devices and gateways and be able to manage the life cycle of your connected devices. So solutions like ThingWorks, like Xively, like Exela. There are quite a few pretty mature platforms that exist which help you do that. Also, these platforms are big data enabled so that you can store potentially data from millions of such devices, aggregate them together, and process them in real time or in offline manner to extract the business intelligence, extract uh, the analytics or define those patterns and then use those patterns to be able to take decisions in an offline manner or in a real time manner. So ultimately, the core business of IoT lies on this side, and this is something which a lot of companies already provide, and one can potentially try and leverage a set of ecosystem that organizations have created and focus on the reporting and analytics piece as well as getting the sensors right in order to implement a use case. What you see on the screen now is a different look of the same structure, which is more of a technology component architecture view, wherein you have your sensors and actuators connected to your IoT devices or edge devices or node. You can call it differently. You have short range wireless communication, doing a one-to-many connection with multiple nodes, having your gateway, using different channels like Wi-Fi, cellular connectivity, low power WAN, in getting the connection across using multiple different protocols across to the cloud platform, wherein you have your different types of data stores, both relational as well as NoSQL or big data stores. You have rule processing so that you can listen to the real-time information that is coming in and trigger notifications based on those rules definition, as well as do some kind of a device management uh, uh, in order to manage the life cycle of the devices that you are dealing with. And ultimately, the return on investment or the net value that comes out from any of the investments that we are making would be through the analytics and the visualization and the business intelligence that gets created. Now, having understood about IoT, let's try and see what different segments can one try and uh, attack or approach in terms of creating a startup for yourself. So first and foremost is of course obvious one, and where predominantly a lot of organizations are focusing on, it is building IoT products. So these products could be smart switches and smart switch panels, which go and fit into a smart home. It could be for a smart home also something related to security. So you build a product, you build a solution, and go out and in a business to business or a business to consumer market, try and sell it. So it could be home automation, it could be industrial IoT, which is seeing a very good traction. There are a lot of applications in the retail space. iBeacon and beacons, alt beacon are pretty interesting possibilities in terms of leveraging uh, IoT for multiple different retail related use cases. It could be healthcare, both in terms of lifestyle and fitness tracking, but quite importantly in terms of managing chronic problems. It could be also related to hospital management, wherein you're doing patient care and then tracking and monitoring and controlling the health of those patients who are admitted. So healthcare again is a pretty interesting space to be in. Smart cities, those guys who are in India, they would have, of course, heard about this buzzword. Smart city, in fact, has a huge application of industrial, Internet of Things, and then there could be a lot of different applications that come across, like smart lighting, smart bins, smart roads, smart traffic lights. There are a huge number of possible applications of using IoT to solve the day-to-day business problems in a city as well as making that city more livable and more sustainable lifestyle being built in. So when you are focusing in the product space, what you do is that you identify a particular niche area, you see that there is an opportunity that exists in that space, and then you go about doing your necessary research in that space. Understanding that domain is the key if you want to enter into that space. So for example, we went about and decided to go and build a solution for security of a set of business people, because that was a market that we were related to and we could understand. So being able to really understand the underlying wants and needs of the customers in the space that you are getting into would play a key role. Again, we decided not to build a solution. uh, Sorry guys. So we decided not to build a solution for the US market. uh, Sorry guys, yeah. So for the US market, or the Western world, because that is a market we really don't understand, and it's the Indian market that we understand, but people can choose different paths that might be possible. The next set of opportunities where again you could build an interesting startup, though we are not seeing too much of traction right now, but with a larger and more mature ecosystem building coming up, there are going to be more and more such opportunities that pops in this space. Could be in the services side of it. So for example, you could become a system integrator, wherein there is a specific need. So for example, Tata Motors has to go out and implement a particular application of industrial IoT for their car manufacturing plant. Now, you as a system integrator would go in there, who would have potentially tie up with multiple different products and platform providers, and you go in and implement that solution both on the hardware side as well as software side, and take responsibility of that execution. So this is something which a lot of services, IT services companies are right now focusing on. So organizations like TCS or Accenture or Mindtree or HCL, what they're trying to do is because they are already providing IT services to organizations, they are trying to build competence. And in fact, we've worked with a number of them through our IoT boot camps. We've helped them develop that competence so that they can start uh, providing system integration services to their customers whom they are potentially already providing IT services. So that's as far as system integration is concerned, but that's not the only thing. Now, as an as a solution provider, as a product provider, there are so many different things that needs to be done for making that final solution work. Okay, and because there are n number of technologies involved in this, having a core expertise in all those areas is almost next to impossible. So there could be technology service providers in niche areas. So for example, when we had to build our gateway, we really didn't have the entire hardware competence to design a robust system. So we went about and outsourced that hardware gateway development piece. Of course, we were involved quite a bit in that process, but the core expertise of choosing the right components and then getting the right layout and then developing that entire thing was outsourced. So because there is going to be so much of a requirement of products and solutions in this space, one can try and create a niche area wherein they say, okay, I am going to build mobile applications on Android and iOS for IoT specific solutions. So you might be an expert in beacon technology, you might be in Wi-Fi technology or Bluetooth low energy, and you try and build solutions which are going to cater to the mobility need for a final IoT solution. It could be analytics and machine learning, because there's going to be an important aspect of machine learning in the final solution. It could be traditional IT, Of course, there would be a lot of reports, a lot of UI to be created in order to manage billions of these devices that are getting connected. It could also mean configuring a lot of the potential solutions that are already there in the market. So ThingWorks is for example, a complete system in itself. So like you would have a SAP implementer, or you might have a Oracle implementer, you might actually have a ThingWorks implementation. So you could potentially have an organization built up wherein you have that core competence to go out and configure and manage a ThingWorks platform to a specific domain. It could be hardware design, it could be testing. Testing is again a very interesting area to be in, because of the complexity and heterogeneous system that we are dealing with. It is quite possible, and we've also experienced along the way. So doing an end-to-end system testing, building an automation test harnesses which deals with both the hardware, wireless communication, reliability, cloud, security, is a complete field in itself. So building an organization which focuses on testing IoT solutions could be again an important aspect. It could be related to testing out, and we've already come across a few organizations which are just focusing on building solutions, providing out-of-box capabilities for managing IoT security. So in terms of enabling the IoT solution, there could be some pretty interesting opportunities, and based on your expertise area, you might want to kind of try and create an organization in that space. The last segment, and probably it's going to be the largest, maybe not now, but along the line, would be like you have IT enabled services, you would have IoT enabled services, because IoT is bringing in an entirely new concept, entirely new set of business solution. Building an organization which leverages the IoT deployments that are there, and offering services along with that. So, for example, it could be building a command center or a control center which takes care of physical security, wherein there are solutions or security solutions deployed, or logistic solutions deployed across multiple customers, and you as a command center has that capability to track, monitor, and raise the required events and triggers and manage that entire deployment. It could be building data centers, because the amount of data that we are now generating and managing those data centers, which are leveraging a lot of IoT specific cloud technologies, could be again an interesting proposition. It could be also because there are going to be so many devices which gets deployed in the field, right? And they are going to go bad. So building an organization which focuses and expertise has an expertise which ties up with the original equipment manufacturer, like you might potentially have for mobile phones, right? There are services organizations who have expertise to service, maintain, and repair mobile phones. Similarly, it could be for IoT devices. So organizations like Exelta uh, could tie up with them, wherein we build that competence within those organizations for our specific product, and then they help provide the services for us. It could be health management services, because there are so many different wearable devices, health tracking, monitoring systems that are being built. One could potentially take those solutions and products and create a health management service organization which tracks maybe the health stats of chronic patients or older patients, and provides value added services through the usage of those IoT solutions that exist. It could be home automation services again, wherein you bring in multiple home automation products together, and as an expert go in and implement a home automation solution. You might not originally be developing the IP required for that home automation, but you are going ahead and implementing it multiple buildings or individual houses and become an expert. And the the list could be unlimited, and this is where we believe the maximum money would lie. We'll talk about that shortly, but this could be an area which organizations can be built on and leverage those capabilities which are being deployed in the field right now. Okay, having said that, let's take a quick look at it, how our journey has been, what our learning has been in the process. So when I started, I had mentioned that we became revenue neutral within 6 months. I think this has been a very specific focus, and we have not lost sight into uh, into that very key aspect. So there are multiple approaches. We know that there are a number of e-commerce companies and a lot of other companies which have been non-profitable for decades altogether. But typical business sense they says that if you are able to create a revenue stream early in the game, and if you are able to control your costs in such a manner that you are able to sustain on your own, nothing like it. In fact, we got the investors investing in the organization, and one of the key factors why they invested, in spite of not much of funding happening when we took this funding for IoT companies, especially in India, was because we could prove that yes, we are financially prudent and we've been able to get to a stage where we are financially sustainable. So thinking about your business models which ensures that you are financially sustainable as early in the game is pretty important. I've already mentioned that choose a domain which you know, right? We didn't use a lift and shift model, like taking a use case that has been implemented in the Western country, or picking up a product from China, or for that matter any other place, and just going about and deploying it. That would have been a simple way to do it, right? But the challenge with those solutions or those approach is that India specific, or whichever country you are in, each of these use cases are so different. Even if there's a 20% difference between how the user behaves in India or your specific country versus where you're bringing that solution from, it's not going to work. The priorities of customers are also quite different. So choosing those pain points or those areas which are really that needs addressing in that specific business geographical location that you are in plays a pretty important role. So we've selected areas like education, healthcare, security, and as you can see, these are kind of everlasting, long-term domains. But you could choose something else also. I'm sharing what our thought process while selecting the domain was. No lift and shift. Uh, Both me and Piyush, in the sense we had, like I've said, we've spent 20 years in the industry, right? We were employed in different organizations, and uh, kicking the job, and then I'm sure a lot of you who are in the same boat, and of a regular salary and family responsibilities, EMIs to be paid, it is very difficult to actually one fine day decide that I'm going to quit my job and then get into uh, my own startup. So we also did about a year of moonlighting, wherein we took the responsibility of our organization, of course, where we were working, but at the same time, we stretched ourselves and tried to kind of establish this company. And only when we knew that, or not no, knew, but we were confident that yes, this can sustain, the risk would be less, is when we chucked our day job and then fully got uh, into this space. So there's nothing wrong in moonlighting. I know it takes your work-life balance for a toss, but at the same time, for a lot of us who can't take as much of risk upfront, it might be an interesting solution. But at the same time, we also realized that only once we had burnt our bridges, we did make the real progress. So there has to be a timeline defined that, okay, enough is enough. Now let's burn the bridges and then get into that. So defining that timeline is also very important. Otherwise, it becomes more of a hobby than a serious business proposition. Having the right partner, again, very important. You need to, of course, going alone, it's hugely difficult, because in a startup the kind of challenges that exist are huge. So one should try and at least have one partner. Too many of people might also create more complexity, but having two folks who complement the skills required, right, who bring a different thought process and can share the load and then brainstorm and then get the results is also very important. And I think having the right partner has definitely helped us in getting where we are right now. And uh, getting the right talent at the right cost is again an important aspect. Because we were bootstrapping, we didn't have too much of resources available, so we have to kind of go for the optimal talent. We couldn't go to the Ivy League colleges and pick up people, right, and get things going. But being able to select among the B grade colleges or from average talent, and then being able to identify those folks. And the focus was not as much on the talent or sharpness, but more on the willingness to work, the drive or the hunger that is there for selecting the talent. And there have been some wrong calls, but focusing on the optimal talent level has something which has worked well for us. Creating our own IP, that was an important decision again that we took, that we could have selected a ThingWorks or an Exela platform, but we realized that those solutions or those products have been built for a different market. And if we go about and create our own, though it required more investment, we would be in a better position in the long run. So that's something which we took as a decision. We built analytic capabilities into the platform. Getting the right client for a startup is always a tough challenge, and that's something which I would say we were lucky also through various connects and other things. We were able to get a marquee client like a Coca-Cola. Around the requirement for that specific client, we could build our entire ecosystem also. We just not built uh, a solution for our customer, but we also invested in building our ecosystem. So though the revenue that might be coming from that one particular client might not be sufficient to take care of your cost, but if you have a paying client, it makes a huge difference in the kind of solution. Otherwise, you are just working on something based on what you think is required. And in case you have a paying client, irrespective of whether it's profitable or not, you're really able to get the real requirement and face the challenges earlier. Saying no to opportunities again, and uh, quickly failing is also very important. So where we started and then what we ended up doing and what we'll do in the future is way too different. So one needs to continuously evolve and continuously be agile, and then look at what kind of opportunities are there and accordingly modify your strategy. And uh, each day we get newer opportunities, and it takes a lot of courage, especially if you're in a startup mode, to say no to opportunities. But being laser focused on what your vision is and then how you want to build your organization is also very critical. Otherwise, what happens is you spread your energy too thin and you don't really get the results. We used social media extensively, conducting these webinars. We created meetups and then various different search engine optimization, digital marketing approaches helped us kind of create a brand, create a presence, which I think any startup should focus on. I think we've talked about getting the talent. One core decision that guys we've taken is that we've in a way made each employee a partner in the organization. So each and everyone who's irrespective of whether they are fresh engineers from college, senior folks, they have a substantial stake in the company, and that has helped us retain the talent, attract the right one, also bring in that sense of ownership. So irrespective of whether you are funded or not, focusing on sharing that wealth through the stock options is we believe an important aspect of yeah, looks like there was some issue that was there in the connectivity. So I guess we are back. Uh,
Yeah,
hardware
we are
has
back. Good now.
yeah hardware has been a tough one, and this is an area which we were not really an expert in. I have a specific slide on the hardware related challenges where we'll talk about that, but costs getting from proof of concept to production has been interesting challenge. Also, we faced quite a few challenges when we actually deployed. So there were certain things we tested in the lab, but challenges related to the cellular connectivity and a lot of other things really came in our way when it came to actually successfully deploying the solution. So hardware is a different game from software. What one needs to kind of plan for the different set of challenges that might come in when you're building a IoT solution. I'll skip a few of them. Lack of standards that typical with the IoT scenario. Some tough calls we've taken in terms of build versus buy, especially when it comes to hardware. Recommendation would be try and leverage the ecosystem rather than building things on your own. Managing costs, getting the right investors. It took us about 6 months from start to actually getting the first investor in. Partnership management, sales, these are all the typical challenges that any organization faces. Now, getting into the financing aspects of things, I guess a lot of you would be familiar with the different sources of finance that can exist. Uh, uh, we did bootstrapping and then went with a mix of friends and family and angel round, but one can go for a different option also. So for almost like a year, we put in our hard-earned savings. But once we had paying customers, we had deployed a solution. We went for a friends and family round. In fact, a lot of our trainees who we've trained across the world, they pitched in and invested in the company by taking stake. So this could definitely the early stage seed funding is typically the most difficult one, and once you have a working solution and maybe a paying customer, it is so much easier to convince the investors to fund you. Crowdfunding, especially in the IoT space, because the use cases are so much enticing and glamorous. In so many cases, typically works as an interesting source of funds. Uh, Though we've also looked at a number of organizations who were successful in raising the funds, but they were not able to sustain themselves. Uh, I don't count out crowdfunding. I see that there are a number of successful companies who've grown through the crowdfunding mechanism. But one challenge that I see is that rather than solving a business pain, a actual user pain, uh, because you need to get crowd funding, the need to be glamorous, the need to be exciting, kind of overtakes the actual business problem. And in the long run, what matters is not how interesting your product is. It is more about how well does it address the core pain point that the customer is facing. So this is something which one needs to think about in terms of whether one wants to go through that source or not. And of course, VC funding, but this typically kicks in once one is kind of moved ahead. You have paying customers, and then you are able to show to your investors or venture funds that you have a sustainable business model. What all we presented to our financiers, we put together a very comprehensive business plan, and Piyush is an expert in there, wherein month by month we put together our costs, we put together our revenue sources, the profitability each month, not just even quarter, across 5 years. We spent a huge amount of time getting a viable, practical business plan together. I know business plans continue to change in a dynamic environment, but at that point in time, having a concrete business plan with revenue sources, costing at individual head level, both in terms of employees or other different heads, and showcasing that yes, how you can be profitable plays a important role. Uh, Typically, it gets, like I said, 6+ months before you get funding, and getting some customers who can pay for your system is probably the key. Uh, Now, IoT in the Western world is a big thing. Already, we are seeing dedicated venture funds who are funding a lot of companies. What I've listed on the screen is as you can see, all the big names in the game who have dedicated venture funds for funding IoT specific solutions. So a lot of them are in software as a service or platform as a service space. A few of them are related to wireless communication, building the wireless personal area networks for IoT enablement. A few of them are specific to healthcare. We are seeing good traction, especially in the US market for IoT devices which are catering to healthcare and health management. But I think it is spanning across both in terms of hardware as well as the software solutions which are getting funding. But having said that, there is a good traction that we are recently seeing of organizations in India wanting to fund uh, India specific IoT startups, which is quite heartening because when we approached about a year back, VC funds, we weren't really seeing that interest. So, for example, there was a recent news article about Wipro investing about 4 million in a company called Eltizon. Uh, there's an organization, Leaf Variables, which is catering to security, especially in the Delhi area, which got seed funding. The numbers are definitely nothing as compared to what you see in mobile or e-commerce startups, but we are seeing the funding happening, which is very exciting and interesting because in case you want to venture out, you can rest assured that a lot of angel investors as well as VC funds are feeling confident to fund organizations in the IoT space. Now, uh, let's try and understand, because hardware forms a core piece of any IoT solution. Uh, some of our learnings along the way. So the good news is that don't be afraid of hardware. There is, in fact, a pretty decent ecosystem that exists, both in terms of design as well as manufacturing of hardware. We might not be able to kind of compete right now with a China or a Taiwan or a Malaysia, but in the initial stages, there is a pretty good ecosystem for getting the design right and then getting your hardware. Most of our hardware, except the ones that we buy uh, out of box from outside, is designed and developed in India. So there is a good ecosystem that is there. Uh, uh, when you are kind of prototyping or building your proof of concept, uh, you should keep in mind the cost, but really speaking, don't make it as a bottleneck for you. because the hardware ecosystem again is evolving so quickly that you don't know, there could be another chip that gets launched by Samsung which is doing something, or an Intel or a Qualcomm or some other organization which is there in that space, which can significantly crash your costs. One should keep the cost in mind, but don't really bother too much. Also, having said that hardware could be a challenge, just remember that getting the hardware right is probably, and I'm kind of generalizing, it could be use case or specific domain specific also, but typically a hardware would be just 20% of your entire game. And even if your costs are slightly higher in hardware, your entire services and solutions is what would matter in the longer run. Now, not some so good news also in this space, specifically if you talk about India, because we are a software powerhouse. Getting good hardware product development professionals is typically very tough, right? You would get average people from the market who have project experience, but that core product development experience who can build a world-class product is typically a tough one. And then we have to kind of invest in the existing set of talent that is there, and we are lucky to have the right set of raw material to build that capability internally. The other aspect is a lot of us probably come from the software background. The life cycle for hardware is so much different from software. So don't just try and kind of again lift and shift the same development model that you are following in the software into hardware, because the design life cycle, the manufacturing cost, the time it takes is so much different, and one needs to keep that in mind as you are putting together your business plan. Uh, I was talking to someone who's pretty senior in helping with the IoT ecosystem in India. So what he told was that most of the startups actually fail in going from proof of concept to prototype and production stage. Okay, so getting a proof of concept is probably just maybe 10% of your entire work that needs to be done. There's a huge uh, leap that is required, a significant time and money that needs to be spent from going from a prototype to a production, or proof of concept to a production stage. So keep that in mind. We've ourselves gone through that process and realized this hard way. And then this is something which we actually share quite extensively in the boot camp or training that we conduct. And you can find, I'll be sharing some information about it shortly, wherein we actually go about and try and share our experiences at a very granular level in terms of what kind of trade-offs we've taken, what kind of challenges, and how do you navigate the tough hardware related stuff that exists. Field challenges again, typically what happens is in a software scenario is even if you go out and deploy it with a pilot customer, right, and you find a bug, it's so much easier to kind of upgrade it and uh, resolve those issues. But because your hardware product is right there in the field, uh, uh, and anticipating or creating a realistic field environment is very tough. It can potentially kill your solution. So keep that in mind. Try and see how quickly you can test whatever you are building by taking in the field, because you can't really think about and replicate that scenario in your lab. So keep that in mind. And whatever you estimate based on your bill of material, based on your development cost, when it comes to hardware, both in terms of the actual capital cost that needs to be spent to get to your final product, as well as the final cost of the product that you are going to sell to the market, is going to be, there is going to be a significant difference between them. I put a ballpark of 50%. It can actually go even more, as we experienced along the way. One of the reasons is that hardware is a volume game. Okay, it's essentially about volume. So you might plan based on, let's say, 10,000 of those pieces in the market, but as you go to market, the traction will take time to build up. And in that initial phases, when you're getting 10, 20, 100 of those devices manufactured, the cost is going to be significantly more, almost like 50, 60% more than what would be in case the volumes are higher. So keep that in mind. Uh, because it's hardware, the development life cycle is different. Plan for a longer gestation. Don't try to kind of build everything on your own. When we built our second solution, which is related to physical security, after having burned our fingers with the first one in terms of building the hardware and other things. I think it was a good experience, but at the same time, the costs and the effort required to build a stable system was way too high. We decided to kind of pick up one of the major pieces out of box and then implement within that. So keep that in mind. Try and see whatever you can buy rather than completely build. Functionality and reliability over appeal, I think that is self-explanatory. And a very important aspect is that when it comes to hardware, uh, the margins will be limited. So in fact, with both our solutions that we've gone to market, we are just breaking even as far as the hardware costs are concerned. Ultimately, you are going to make money through the services that you offer. So think about it this way: build your business model wherein you're using a piece of hardware put into a solution through which you can create a recurring revenue. And I believe that's going to be a critical piece uh, in your journey in making your IoT startup a success. Uh, so a good starting point, guys, for you could be what we've started, and in fact, the boot camp that we conduct, and you can actually go and visit this site, exelta.com, wherein you'll get a lot of information. Is that when we were starting our company almost 2.5 years back, we struggled a lot in terms of getting our hands around all the complexity that exists in building a working successful IoT solution. There were a lot of pitfalls that we fell down on and learned along the way. So what we decided was, why not launch it as a service? Uh, and then that's how the entire genesis of this IoT bootcamp came in, wherein within 5 days you get both in terms of conceptual, theoretical understanding, a very good idea about IoT, which includes what IoT is, and various technology and components, whatever is happening in the entire IoT ecosystem, what Google, Cisco, Amazon, Apple is doing, what various consortiums are there, what kind of protocols exist, how do you trade off between various options that are available, because you have 10 different set of technologies and possibly 10 different options within each of those technologies. Deciding the right one is always very, very tough. So selecting the right one is pretty important, and again, that's something which we try and cover in the boot camp that we have about that. And what a lot of people also appreciate is that we try and follow a use case driven approach, wherein we take a business scenario and share, uh, help you build a solution for that specific business problem. Okay, so in 5 days, you'll not just understand about the technology, architecture, ecosystem, business, possible use cases, and other things. You'll also be able to put together sensors on a hardware, calibrate them. You'll also be able to create data structures and send data to a cloud-based system, build your own mini cloud-based platform, push data into a big data system, analyze that, visualize that. The entire 9 yards, if you call it, you'll be doing in a short span of 5 days. Okay, and then what it helps you do is that it gives you at least 3 to 4 months of jump start in your IoT journey. Okay, so that's what we try and cover as part of the boot camp. I would encourage you to go visit. We have a mechanism through which you can download a detailed brochure about the training, as well as you can go ahead and directly enroll in there. So as part of the training, we'll be shipping a kit across to you. We'll help you set up that environment. We'll provide the necessary ecosystem to actually get you up and running quickly for building your own IoT solution. So that a couple of a few testimonials, and this is something that you can find on our site also. Various different people from different background, how they've felt about the training. We've, like I said, trained more than 1,000 people on the technology, and we are by far the largest in the world, providing such a comprehensive and hands-on IoT training. In fact, we've trained almost like 250 people at Intel worldwide also, being their official training partners. Having said that, that brings us to the end of the webinar. Let me now try and see if I can take up a few questions. Okay, so what I'll do is that uh, I'll move from bottom to up. I guess Piyush would have answered along the way a few queries already. Uh, so I see there's a question for from Vikas for IoT expert training. Uh, what pri uh, okay, looks like there's some connection issue, guys.
Voice is breaking.
Okay, Piyush, you wanna take some of the questions?
Yes, I'll take a few of them. So I've answered most of the questions already, but just answering some of them. The expert program, Ashish, is the 5-day IoT expert training you're talking about, or you're talking about the 6 weeks program? I'm not sure. But the 6 weeks program, we select people, only selected people are part of that. So that is only in US right now. The 5-day bootcamp that we do, you can go to our website, excelta.com, and get all the details about it. So hands-on projects, Chandra, are about a logistics use case where you solve a logistic trucking company shipping perishable items, how IoT helps them, a home automation use case, as well as a actuation where you actuate remotely an action, okay, based from your device. So 3 hardware practicals and then 3 software practicals where you will be actually building a small web service to receive data from the device on the cloud, and you'll be processing it and developing some reports based on that. There are 6 practical hands-ons that you will do in this training. So for the IoT expert program, you don't, you have to be an engineer, but for the boot camp that we do, there is no previous experience required. You can be, anybody who can do this training, and we ensure that 100% of the people are able to complete 100% of the practicals. Okay, so
Okay,
so on the cloud part of this whole thing, we do have, in the training we've covered it very thoroughly, and you get a very good idea on the resources and the things, Ujjwal. Yes, so soldering and other aspects are not covered, Shyam, in this training.
And then
So,
the good part of the hardware ecosystem, the open source hardware ecosystem that is there, and that's something which we cover. It is that you don't really need soldering. You can use built shields, stack them together, and have your proof of concept in place.
yeah. So another question is what the scope of IoT building in smart cities? So definitely smart cities, the smart keyword Santu is about IoT. Okay, so anybody who wants to get into the smart city projects, want to do something there, IoT, learning IoT is very important for him. So bootcamp training is the goal of bootcamp training is to make you understand IoT end to end and give you hands-on experience so that you can build your own IoT device. So security in home, definitely Priyanka is also a very good, use case where wherever you see tracking, monitoring, smart, all these are IoT keywords. Okay, Ashish. So 6 weeks course is US course, which based out of US, where we take a physical batch. We train them online from India, but that's a physical batch that we take within our premises in US. Okay, we have our own office in US where we do that.
Yeah, Yogesh is asking a question about licenses required for IoT setups. So Yogesh, you actually don't need any licensing. All you need to do is have of course, a registered firm, but as such, you don't require any licenses, not even for any of the wireless communication protocols, because typically you'll be using the unlicensed band related hardware for doing your solution.
Okay. Chandra is asking, we don't need, see, for this 5-day training, there is no background required. People from all walks, there are bankers, engineers, doctors who have done this course. And many of them have become entrepreneurs. So we are, excited to tell that there are more than 10 people who have started their own companies and successfully after doing our training. So we are selling everything, going to sell everything through our connects, and course we have already have a setup. Using that we are selling. There is actually too much demand for our product, and we're not really able to, sell or meet that as of now. So there is no question or concern regarding selling. So Vikas is saying I am a 12-year experienced embedded software engineer with good knowledge of it. Yes, definitely, because you have this knowledge, but IoT knowledge is very much required for a person because industry is looking for that. We are official trainers for at least 10 corporates today, and we have trained thousands plus people, as I told. So we have that experience to know what exactly industry is looking for, and that's what we cater to in this program to make them industry ready. So Ankush, 6-week program details will be known very soon on our website.
Yeah. So, guys asking what is the cost of the training? Like Piyush mentioned, guy, right now this training has been launched only in the US, and it's on a different model wherein we are not offering as a training. It is more like hiring people, getting people on our payrolls, and then training them, and they'll be working on our behalf as consultants in some interesting IoT specific products or project implementations. So it's a kind of a different model that we are following there. Yes, Chandra. Right now, that's something we are, guy, in discussion with one partner in Italy to try and see if we can launch it there. But I think it would be something which would happen at least a few quarters down the line. We are right now intending to stabilize that business in the US, and then we plan to launch both in Singapore as well as in the European market.
So Shamu is asking any prerequisites. No prerequisites for the bootcamp, Shamu. As I said, anybody and everybody can benefit from it. If you have some technology knowledge, then that helps, but not mandatory. We ensure that each and every participant is able to come. That's the way it has been designed, so that it starts from the very scratch, doesn't assume anything about you, and then gives you a very hands-on experience on IoT.
Lorry,
Singapore,
Lorry is
yeah,
asking,
yeah, Manish.
does batch one include batch two on your website? So, Lorry, batch one is 3 days, which is the deep dive session, and batch two is essentially those first 3 days, followed by 2 days of additional hands-on session. So essentially, batch two includes the batch one in a way. So you can either choose for 3 day deep dive, or you could choose for 5 day expert program, which would include the deep dive and the hands-on session. I hope that clarifies. All right. Siddharth is asking what technology are required exactly apart from hardware. Siddharth, I would suggest if you can actually visit our site, www.exelta.com, wherein you'll actually uh, see a lot of information about the bootcamp related stuff, which lists out the technologies as well. Uh, Also, you can go ahead and visit our blog. I'm just right now typing that. Guys, just 1 second. So I hope you guys can see my screen. So it is essentially
The right combination based on experience, based on the
www.exelta.com.
domain, the
Yeah. So I've sent it in the chat window also.
learn exactly from our bootcamp basically. Okay, guys, I think we are beyond time now. Thanks
Yeah.
for attending. Manish, you just want to do the closing comments?
Yeah, yeah. I guess some of you might have more questions about the training as well as other queries also. So I've just put my, in fact, you can see it out here. Please drop us a note on this uh, email address and any queries that you might have about the training or otherwise, and we'll be glad to answer any of your queries. So thanks everyone. Thanks for your active participation. We hope and look forward to have you as part of the training. But also we would like to wish all of you so that you can go about and build your startups in IoT. It's trillions of dollars of new business opportunity that is there, and everyone can have their piece of share. So go take that call, jump in, and I'm sure you guys can create some really exciting solutions and products and build a business around that. So thanks a lot, guys, for the participation and all the best.